Thank you. Start with the little ones first and work our way up. Is that right? Perfect. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm really pleased to be here and be able to talk with you about some of the things that are happening in Evergreen School District. We do have 3 trustees in the room, Jim Zito, Balaji Venkatraman, and Bonnie Mace. So I'm sure they will fill in if I leave out any important issues. I have a series of talking points, items, topics that I want to share. I don't have a prepared presentation, but just really want to let you know what's happening in the district. First of all, I dropped off one of these to those of you who are seated. This is hot off the press, just came in this morning, and the timing was absolutely perfect. I told Charles, I said, yes, I need some of those, give me a couple stacks. So they're here. If you didn't get one, you can pick one up on your way out on the sideboard. This is our annual report to the community, and it gives an overview of information about the district and what took place last year and some of the things that we're looking forward to in the coming year. We hit finance, we hit education, we hit construction projects. There's all kinds of information in here. So I want to draw that to your attention and ask you to please take one on your way out. One of the items that we talk about in here is the profile of a learner. And this is something that we've spent a couple years working on. And what it is a series of 6 elements, and they are qualities or traits, outcomes, if you will, that we want for all of our students when they leave us. You know we have a responsibility to teach our students to read, to write, but we also want them to be good communicators orally, in writing, in all ways. We want them to know how to work with others. We hear all the time from business that collaboration and the ability to work with a team to accomplish a task or a goal is critically important. And so that's one of our outcomes. We want our students to be critical thinkers. We want them to be able to see a problem and be able to think it through, and to be creative with ideas when they look to resolve that problem. We want them to be innovators, and we want them to know how to advocate for themselves and for others. So this was developed over the series of a couple of years with input from our staff, the community, our teachers, everybody was involved in the development of this. The board approved it last spring. And so now this is what we are using as our guidebook, if you will, to drive our instruction. This year we're going to spend some time developing metrics to measure these items. So how do we know if a student is a good collaborator? There's not a test we can give them, and if they score 90%, we can say, you're perfect, you've got that one. So we're going to spend some time, we have a team of principals and teachers that are going to be working on developing a rubric or a tool to measure how well our students are doing on these items. One of our big projects when it comes to construction is the completion of the STEM classrooms. So our elementary schools, we are putting STEM classrooms in every elementary school. These classrooms are not being staffed with people to run them. The idea with these classrooms is that it's a space where elementary school teachers can take their students, and students can go in and do hands-on science, and they can make a mess. They can get wet, they can drop dirt on the floor, they can be really messy in that space. I think back to when I was teaching 5th grade at Cedar Grove in my 960 square foot classroom with my 32 5th grade students, and when it came time to teach science, the most difficult challenge I had was how do I have them do hands-on science activities, projects, learning in this tight classroom where there's really no space to move around. So the idea with the STEM classrooms is to provide a space that's large, that 2 teachers perhaps could take 2 classes of students where they have all the equipment and the tools they need to conduct science, engineering, mathematic projects, and then the space can be used after school as well. So we want to put those in all of our elementary schools, and we will be completing those this year. We have a parcel tax coming on the November ballot, and it's a $125 parcel tax for 7 years, and it will go, oh, this is the best part. It's Measure EE. Evergreen Elementary. Is that not perfect? It's absolutely perfect. I think it was meant to be. So it is, I'll read you the language, the ballot language. It's to provide competitive and safe learning environments and enhance student achievement by improving hands-on science, technology, and math instruction, keeping class sizes low, improving teacher quality and training, maintaining arts, music programs and libraries, and ensuring adequate student supervision and safety. So, little plug, I urge you to please vote yes on this and support it. And Mr. Waite, I also did want to ask this group for an endorsement of that measure. I'm not sure what that process is, but...
We'll deal with it after your presentation.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Parcel tax. Budget. The budget is a big deal in our school district. We continue to have declining enrollment. So as students leave us, we have a need, our revenue drops. And so we made $16.2 million in reductions last year. And we are able to meet our financial obligations currently in the 3rd year, which is what we're required to do by law. So we're sitting in an okay place, but with the continued decline in enrollment, it's something we need to watch very, very closely. Someone asked me today, do we think that we're getting close to leveling out? And that answer is yes. We work very closely with our demographer, and he is actually doing a whole new study this fall. And the last projection he shared with us, I believe it was 2019, that was when we were going to level out. So we'll get an updated projection from him probably in the December timeframe, and we'll know better where we stand with regard to enrollment. Labor relations. We are currently at impasse in negotiations with our Teachers Association. We are headed to fact-finding on September 17th. And fact-finding is a step in the process to resolve differences between 2 parties and help both sides come to a mutually agreed upon agreement. We've never been through this process. We've been in impasse before, but we've never been as far as fact-finding. So I'm kind of intrigued to go through the process. What happens is we have a PERG, the Public Employee Relations Board, appoints a panel chair, and then each party is allowed to appoint 1 person to sit on the panel. So the district has chosen someone to sit on the panel. The Teachers Association has chosen someone to sit on the panel. And then that panel of 3, they hold a hearing, and each side presents its case, if you will. And the whole time, they are pushing the parties to reach an agreement. So I am very hopeful that we will be able to reach an agreement on September 17th. And keep your fingers crossed, please. CBO recruitment. We are currently recruiting for a Chief Business Officer. We have interviews scheduled September 26th, and I actually anticipate that we might have somebody to take to the board in October. So with that, I thought I would open it up. I've given you kind of a highlight of the big items that we're facing in the district, and I'd like to just open up to questions at this point.
So I noticed in your pamphlet here, you talk about music, but one thing that's kind of, you start to missing is public school sports. And I understand, I've been checking around, parallel middle schools are not operating fall sports. Comes to question, what is the basis for that? Because I understand that there should be nothing to impede provision of public education services. Nothing. So I can understand. Tell us why it's happening.
So the after-school sports are not part of a student's required daily educational experience. They're an extra, if you will. We are currently at impasse with the teachers, and the teachers came to their middle school principals on August 21st, and they said, we are not going to do the coaching of the after-school sports. And we're not going to do this because we're at impasse with the district. We don't have an agreement with the district, we don't have a contract, we don't feel that this is something we want to support. So we as a district are not able to require them to do it. It is an extra. It's something they receive a stipend for. But that's the story there. Sherry?
So if I heard you correctly, you said, you talked about the deficit or the budget. And I thought I heard you say that you're all good for the next 3 years. So I'm confused by that.
We are able to meet our financial obligation in the third year. That's different than being good. And I'll tell you why. It's because we can cover our expenses because we have enough in savings, but we're eating through that savings.
Okay, because before I thought we were not going to have enough savings to make it through the third year.
Yep.
But now we're okay?
After $16 million worth of cuts, yes.
Okay. But still no schools cut? Or still-
Right.
But
No-
still
no
no
schools
schools
closed
cut?
as of today. Sorry.
As of today?
Well,
Tomorrow we'll check
there
that.
is no vote to close schools as of now, this year, and
All right.
I guess until a new board is decided.
Okay.
Daniel Reyes. I've lived on Beckley Drive since 1972. I'm from the old school in Mexico. When in a dorm to another teacher would come into the classroom, the whole class would stand up in silence as a means of showing respect. I think we have to go to some of the basic rules of doing it right, because that's the time when the children, but sometimes because parents, sometimes both parents go to work, the schools become their tutors and their guidance for the future. I think you should consider to bring some of those, what do you call them, principles to our children. I think we have to show how we can be different from the rest of the San Jose and why we should be attractive instead of leaving to other districts or parents taking their children to other places. That's one thing. Regarding the negotiations, I think we have to be careful that doesn't happen to what happened to the police department when we used to be the safest city in the nation. And we were, I believe, probably overpaying policemen. So the fact that now they're leaving as well because we don't pay them well. And I wonder if there's a happy medium to come to between the district negotiators and the faculty to keep that in mind for them. And it may be a negative or maybe a positive, depends on how the negotiations go. I also have been involved with the middle schools of bringing to Evergreen College, to the astronomy department, children, especially girls and Hispanics or other minorities, blacks, etc., in which they will be, if they are A+ students in math and science, they will carry them on through to hopefully get a doctoral degree. So if you'd like to look into that, talk to Professor Seltzer at the Evergreen College. I took, and let me just give you an example. I took a child that the mother is illiterate and the father doesn't speak English well. Yet their son has A+ in math and science. So the professor is looking for that type of students that may have low income and limited resources and help them to make it easier for them to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
You said the enrollment was going down. How much has it gone down over what time period?
Over the past 4 years, we have lost 2,400 students.
What percentage is that?
Um,
Well, we have 10,500 approximately now.
We used to have 13, so if you subtract
We used to have
24, so it's about 17%.
So enrollment has gone down 15 to 20%. So why in the expenditures, why has expenditures gone up so much?
Expenditures have gone up because the cost of doing business has gone up. The biggest impact to our budget right now is the contribution to retirement, the PERS and STIRS obligation that districts have. That's probably the biggest impact.
If student enrollment goes down, doesn't the number of teachers go down?
Yes, it does.
So then wouldn't your contribution to retirements go down?
I don't have the increases committed to memory, but they're increasing significantly each year. We're going to be contributing, I believe by 2020, something like 19 or 20% of a person's salary to STIRS, of a teacher's salary. So even though the number of teachers may decline, proportionate to the number of students that we lose, the cost, it's not, there's not an economy of micro scale.
It's not one to one.
Ministers lied to the public for a long time, and now they're making up for it.
There you go.
It's a gradual increase over time, so even though the number of teachers goes down, the PERS and STIRS contributions go up.
Because it's underfunded or what?
Yes.
Yeah, the long-term obligation is unfunded, and so they are working to get it funded.
Although the LCFF actually increased
What is LCF?
the local control funding formula,
What is that?
that is the way that the state figures out how much we get per pupil. Okay, that went up over the last few years since it's been implemented. The state's been doing well with their revenues, and so we've gotten a significant amount of increase. However, on the other hand, as Kathleen mentioned, they've also said, well, wait a minute, we've underfunded our pensions, so now we're going to ask each of the districts to pay into the pensions a much larger percentage of what they were paying before, something in the 9% range early on, right? About 5 years back.
Yeah, it was about 8, actually 8 1/4 or something.
Right, so it's at least doubled, it will at least double from back then to now, so.
What percentage of the expenditures are going towards teacher retirement?
So if approximately 88% of our budget is salaries and benefits overall, okay, no, it's well into the 80s. Then, you know, that's all staff. So we also got STIRS and PERS, so
Classified.
the classified also their retirement, so it's not just teachers, it's also the classified. If we're talking 20%, I'm just doing numbers off the top of my head, we're looking at something in the neighborhood of about 12%, 12 to 15%.
Expenditures goes towards retirement funding?
So most of the expenditures in a school district, as Kathy can support, go towards salary, benefits, and PERS and STIRS. That's primarily what we spend our money on.
And as it says in here, I mean, we're pretty generous. We have $95,000 is the average salary of our teachers.
Yes?
Quick question, in terms of demographics, I was under the impression that Evergreen continues to have a positive net gain, not a negative net gain, in its population growth. I mean, at least that's what a lot, when I was talking to real estate agents and developers, said that there is a lot of people, there are a lot of people moving into this area, hence all the construction growth. So And there are young families, so I don't understand when you talk about that.
Actually, they're not young families. Our demographer pointed to three factors that account for the enrollment decline. The first is the cost of housing in the Bay Area. The second is during the recession, the birth rate plummeted. So there aren't any, there are fewer young children coming in. And the third item, which is a little unique to Evergreen, is he says when new homes are built, when new housing developments come into being, the people who tend to move to those are people with families. And if you look around Evergreen, many of the neighborhoods here were built about 20 years ago. And so what you have is you have the family that moved in, the kids are grown up and out, and mom and dad are still in the house. So actually, I had a thought today about this because I know Proposition 5 is on the ballot, and it's the tax portability measure, which will limit the tax implications for people who want to sell their home and move elsewhere. I think that might have a positive impact on enrollments.
And that's in the November ballot.
It's in the November ballot.
And it's called again, what is it called again?
Proposition 5,
For the whole state or just local?
state.
So all the districts around the county, with the exclusion of ones that have very, very high levels of new homes, like Milpitas, for example. But most of the school districts around the county are also suffering, especially on the east side. East Side Union High School District is suffering the same problem. Oak Road, Franklin, McKinley, they're all suffering the same problem of this dearth of young families with children.
One more question, if there is.
I just want to make a comment because this, it struck me as we're talking about it. I was at a wedding in Tahoe this past weekend, and 4 of the individuals were from Norwood Creek Elementary School. And just to show you the success, one is an executive at Netflix, one is a chief of staff for a California state legislator, one is a film producer who's already had an Oscar nomination, and one is an attorney in Modesto. So 4, Norwood Creek, you did a good job, so let's look
Thank
to
you.
the future.
Except the
can-
lawyer one.
Yeah, I know, but let's continue to keep that standard of excellence, so we have those folks coming out, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Superintendent.
I can say that about lawyers, I got a family full of them.
I have a son who's one,
Yeah, well.
and a husband. I'm kind of partial.
You failed. You failed as a mom.